Hey there. My name is Peter Schmalfeld, and for those who know me, they probably know me as a software engineer. Somebody who writes code for a living. And those who have known me a lot longer know that I have an art background and I like to create music and things like that as well. Um, so I've decided to try something new that I've never done before, and I thought it might be worthwhile to try to document the process because I've genuinely been wanting to do this for like 20 years, but I've never felt like I could do it. And that is create a game by myself. And then recently, it's going to sound ridiculous, but it's the truth. I had a dream about a game. And so, any of you old school Street Fighter fans, it was back in the day, there was also Killer Instinct and games like that. And so, in my dream, it was Killer Instinct, but the characters in Killer Instinct were actually really bad at fighting. So they're doing stuff like yeah, like couldn't throw a punch, couldn't kick, and I woke up laughing. I was laughing so hard at it, and for like days it just kept sitting in my head, and like how silly that was as a game. And then I really wanted like to play that as a thing, but I didn't want it to be like realistic characters. And so I later that day I saw like what they call them pictograms. And so for whatever reason, I thought it'd be funny that like if it was those characters, but you could customize them to like have clothing and whatever. But it's obviously still that style of pictogram. But it was also fighting, and that's the whole premise of the joke was that. And so that has led down a mental journey for me where I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to make a game for a really long time. I have no experience doing it whatsoever. But because I also now do a lot of AI related stuff, I realized that the reason I couldn't do it before was actually not that like I didn't have a background on art or music or coding. It was more that I just didn't understand the lingo, didn't understand the interfaces. And so with ChatGPT and the ability to create custom coding agents and things like that, I kind of realized that it might be possible to just like make myself an assistant that I can, knowing what I know about my industry that I come from, like kind of act as an assistant guide where I could be like trying to do something I've never done before. I need you to do a lot of hand holding. I need you to like assume that I don't know where things are or what they're called, and walk me through it, like where I need to click on some stuff. I have the idea, so that before I got into that, I was also kind of like, well, maybe I should also flesh out the idea a bit. So what I wanted to show is I don't want to show you like how I coded a game because I think that's boring. I haven't actually gotten that far. It's going to take me a long time to code this, but to get it to where I want. But in all honesty, the thought process of what I try to do before I start anything is I want to like think of all the different pieces that need to go into it, and I think doing the research on that stuff is important. So that's what I wanted to share. I want to share the like how do you get from an idea into something you've never done before, do research into something that's a new space for you, and then also start like prototyping ideas in it. It's a huge crossover. It's like a genre shift for me, and I think that might be interesting to people who are like wanting to do something similar that they might not be in a profession that they would like to get into, and this is that video. So the four main things that I had in here were core concept and player experience, and then game mechanics, like how I wanted it to function, player experience and feel. This was kind of like the aesthetics of what I was looking for that I described a little bit earlier, and then the character and environmental systems. And so these, in the research I had, these were kind of like the main ways of categorizing these. If you're a professional game developer and you're looking at this list going, like, this guy's an idiot, but probably it's obviously, like I said, I've never done this before. This is my attempt at doing this, and this is what I came up with based off of research and things that I was doing. So, and then for each of these four main groups, those kind of get broken down into other stuff. So, example, the pitch would be like, if I had to explain this game to somebody, could I do that? And so that's what all these are. Now I'm going to take all these things, I'm going to bring it into like an actual gaming thing. So this I'm going to show you is my using ChatGPT image, which is the version 2.0. And this is going to be the like kind of very, very rough. So when you're looking at this going, what is this guy even? It's like, again, I'm going to start with the pictogram style. So this is kind of conceptually, if you see these images, this is where I was like, all right, so I didn't make these. These were images that were available online. But what I liked about this is that these all the characters clearly had like some of them had outfits on, some of them had accessories like hats, suits. So, but it was still obviously the style of the pictogram, which I was like, this okay, so it's doable to stylize these in a way where it's interesting. They've also got little accents and like profanities and things like that. So they're not speaking, which was also interesting to me. Yeah, and then I broke the style down to just a very simplistic, more familiar, what you would expect from that. And I believe this is just different versions of the same thing. So very, very recognizable. We see these all over the place. From there, I brought this into some like character mock-ups where I was looking at some different types of characters. And so from that, like I had the example of like this character, which is like a baseline character. And then there might be one, I'm just going to open up a couple of these here, like a nervous character. And so these would have different stats and traits, like they might not punch or kick as much. The funnier one for me, the overconfident one that was like thinks they can fight, but they can't. They're the worst, but they act, arrogant, whatever. And then the punching and kicking mechanisms, I started thinking about this a little bit more. So I started putting these are what ChatGPT was doing for the image program. But what I was interested in here was more of just like conceptually like getting it to understand what I wanted. And so I was like, yeah, this is 100% like how they would fight in the game. Like you're not punching or doing real kicking or standing like somebody who's experienced. It would be ridiculous things. So yeah, and then even the special moves, it might be like if you've ever seen The Simpsons where they just start swinging their arms crazy, like it's that kind of thing. Um, so from that, then I came up with like what this might look like if it was a level. So I'll start with an office one. This was actually one I work on first. So these are different characters I came up with, and so I was explaining how I wanted it to be like because they're black and white characters, but I was also like I don't want the colors to be super vibrant and like overwhelming. So I wanted to, but I also don't want it to be sepia tone. It's just very desaturated styling and color. And then I also wanted there to be throwable items because I thought that might be funny to like have people be able to chuck things and not, like completely miss them or hit them, but it's like stuff that's not going to hurt them, like crumpled paper, paper cups, like things that are just like, dude, what are you doing? But in a fight like this would be hilarious and that you get points for it and whatever. And so each of these I had, yeah, different type of things I thought might be funny, like the DMV for whatever reason, the arcade, amusement park. So, and then I just conceptually was like, gave it a list of the different types of things that might be funny for these things. And then from there, I came up with like battle system kind of thing where I was like, all right, if this is actually fighting, what would that look like? And they might have special moves, and then you want to keep track of which what their levels are and who's won certain rounds and things like that. So once this was done, so yeah, this is definitely like as you can see in here, like this is kind of like just the concept work, and then from there I wanted to figure out like this is actually a UI that I made. This isn't something that the ChatGPT provided. It kind of conceptually like gave something, but I ended up just making my own version. So there's an Illustrator version of this. So the goal is that all of those references that you saw in there are just ideas, and so that's the whole point. Like I'm not using these things because you can't really like. I mean, I guess you could try to make these into like 3D models or whatever, but my whole process of what I want to do is I generally want to make the game, like which means that all the graphics, all the hopefully like animations, things like that. I think that stick figure person, there's some different varieties of that are already made that are exactly perfect. Like I don't need to make it in that case. I could purchase it. But I'm not doing anything AI generated to create the game. Like I'm using AI in this case to assist in the thought process of what I would need to make the game, which is technically different. So yeah, then I made like I do graphic design, so I made a logo for the game. I did the UI overlay, which is what you see in these little battle guys up here at the top. And then I was also thinking about like if I did make this, like how would I even publish it? So I found this idea in my head. I'm going to share this with you too. This is a robot that I built a while ago, and his name is Rexy, and he's a little. I think it's called the Ricci Mini. It's from Hugging Face. They make AI models and things like that. But they also released this. And on top of this guy, if you saw, he's got a little tiny hat. And when I was thinking of the name, this was sitting on my desk, and I thought that was funny. And so I was like, yeah, Tiny Hat Games. So and the domain name was available, and I saw that the different social media accounts were also available. So I was like, man, I'm going to take that real quick. The very next thing I did is I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to get into Unreal, I wanted to make a custom agent that had grounded knowledge on which specific versions of Unreal Engine. So I think I'm using like 5.7.4 or something like that. And then very clear instructions of like how I wanted it to like kind of hold my hand and do baby steps with me. And when it gave me instructions that it needed to remember things like I don't know where the things are or what they're called. So this is a custom agent. I just put my logo in there and then I gave it this, name and description. And but the important part here was these instructions. And so that what you saw in the file folder was these guys. And so now I can come in here and ask it whatever questions that I want, and it will give me an answer. So this has actually been ridiculously helpful because, like I said, I don't know anything. So as I've been asking questions to this stuff, it's actually done a really good job. So some real use case things where I actually show you. I've got it open in the background. I knew I wanted like side scrolling type, Street Fighter style games where the characters had to like face each other and fight and then they can't really turn around or jump backwards or things like that. I also needed to understand like how you can get two players in here, like because you're gonna need to fight, and I needed a dummy game or a dummy player that I could practice on. So and also like how to do move mechanics and things like that. Like the ability for this to like as I move closer to a player, it backs away and has a speed, and if I get further away, but then also like like you can see I get to a point and it stops, like so my player hits like a brick wall. I didn't want them to get too far apart because I wanted this to mimic fighting games. The other thing I wanted is that you could see this object that's in the foreground has a blur on it. So I wanted in the game when I'm making it that like I can have like a good parallax effect where the images or like let's say I call images models that are in the foreground, will have like a good depth of field to it, and then you can still see the background art and things like that. So like the walls, but things that are in the foreground are just like interesting enough visually to like kind of get in the way of the characters without blocking gameplay. And then on the ground by the player's feet, as you're moving back and forth, you can discover like just things that are on the ground that you can pick up and throw at the characters. So but this took me like 2 days just to get to this because I didn't know anything when I first started. And then I didn't understand when you first start the third person view, like your camera in Unreal is pointed at the back of the first player and that follows them around, which makes sense for a third player game. But I wanted a different camera that was on the front. And then as you can see, like it actually like zooms in to the center. So it's figuring out where they are and then kind of dividing them in half and then drawing a line to the camera. And then it has a dynamic zoom and all of that stuff I had to actually figure out how to create, which meant that I had to learn how to make a camera, learn how to set variables, learn how to program those using the blueprints that this has and learning what blueprints are. So there's a lot. The thing I am not looking forward to is I have very specific animations that I want for this. And so that since it is a very specific fighting style game, those you can get motion capture stuff for sure. Like and there's a lot of amazing motion capture stuff already for fighting games, but not for parody fighting games. There's one that I found and it has like three animations, but an actual proper fighting animation thing has like I think it was like 180 from what I was seeing. Because it's you get hit in the face, you get hit in the face twice, you get hit hard. The chest, the arms, all those different areas. You fall down, you have to get back up. Like all there's a lot of different animations that I didn't even think about until I started getting into this. But apparently, there's also now software that is Magic something. I don't remember the name of it. But yeah, you just upload like I think it's less than a 50-second clip or something like that as their cap, and then it'll convert the video into the skeletal animations, and then you can just swap out whatever you need for that. Anyway, the majority of my time on this so far has been research on the idea because it's new. It's in an industry I don't have any experience in using tools I have never touched before, other than downloading it and I think opening it once, like every couple of years, just to see if it's easier, and it wasn't. Um, but now with the modern tooling that is available for just general AI stuff, uh, and not using it to just do the work for you, it is an option now to like have that there to help you do the thing that you actually want to do and then still do it yourself. But this gets my foot in the door to the point where I can actually start getting okay at this. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully, I keep going with this and I don't run into any huge barrier or something like that I can't find out answers for. But yeah, I'm just doing this on like nights and weekends when I have free time just to kind of, see how it goes and see if I can continue doing this stuff. And hopefully in like 6 months, I would imagine, that sounds crazy saying that, but hopefully in like 6 months, I would imagine like I'm further along and this is starting to resemble like actual something. But with the scope of the full, like I have so much stuff I want to make in this game, like multiplayer mode, being able to have play an AI bot, different playable characters, the ability to customize those characters are different things, and so those are all like if I release this, I would want it to have that. But for me to like learn it along the way, like I feel like that's uh, if I started small, and that's where the whole reason the research was like, what are the things I even need to think about? So anyway, thanks for watching. Like I know it was long. I'm sorry. Yeah. So first week, this is where I'm at with this, and yeah, hopefully I'll keep this going. And thanks for watching.